Several boxing websites are reporting that Andy Ruiz Jr. could possibly face Chris Arreola because they asked Andy Ruiz's father, who's also his manager, on who's he gonna fight next, and his father says that he wants his son to be facing Chris Arreola later on this year. Now, Chris Arreola, as far as I'm concerned, is retired because he did retire after he lost against Adam Konaki last year. But if they were to go to Chris Arreola and offer him this fight with Andy Ruiz, I'm pretty sure he would get out of retirement in a heartbeat. Because this fight would sell, even though Chris Arreola is well past his prime. This fight will sell because it's a fight between two Mexican American fighters, and the Mexican boxing fans love when two Mexican fighters fight each other. So that fight would sell 100%. Um, and it'll be funny if they fought because both of these dudes are literally like a mirror of each other. They both have the same type of body. Uh, they look almost identical with their physiques. They both have that same type of chubby body, out of shape type of body, but they're totally different styles. Chris Arreola has always been an aggressive type of fighter who is just trying to come forward. He has absolutely no head movement. Um, and he's always been a decent puncher, while Andy Ruiz is a counter puncher. I see this as an easy fight for Andy Ruiz because if they were to fight, because Chris Arreola fought another counter puncher years ago when he was a lot younger, and that was Bermane Stiverne. And if you guys remember that fight, Bermane Stiverne was knocking Chris Arreola down left from right, literally from counters. Every time he was being pinned against the ropes, he would counter Chris Arreola, and he was dropping him. And he was just a sitting duck for Bermane Stiverne's counters. And Bermane Stiverne beat him up, and eventually he knocked him out in the rematch when he won that WBC belt. So, as somebody like somebody like Andy Ruiz Jr. is far more in his prime than somebody like Bermane Stiverne is and was back then when he fought Chris Arreola, and he has way faster hand speed. Um, so I could totally see him taking Chris Arreola apart. You know, Chris Arreola is a perfect opponent for someone like Andy Ruiz Jr. Unless Andy Ruiz Jr. went in there completely out of shape, even more. But if he went in there 100%, you know, like the Andy Ruiz that I'm used to seeing, I see him taking Chris Arreola apart. Again, this fight wouldn't really mean anything because, like I said, Chris Arreola is way past his prime. But it would still, I would still think that it would sell out and it would still draw a crowd because of the fact that they're both Mexican fighters. You know what I'm saying? And I could totally see this fight having a bunch of people attend to it. Um, I thought Chris Arreola was washed up when he fought Deontay Wilder a few years ago. That was the fight where Deontay Wilder broke his right hand. If you guys remember, he broke his right hand when he hit it against Chris Arreola a few years back. I'm not really mad at this fight if it does happen. Although I would have loved it if he fought Luis Ortiz instead, just because I think that's a way more competitive fight. Because although Chris Arreola is younger than Luis Ortiz, Chris Arreola is way more washed up. He's a guy who's been through so many wars in his career. He's been beat up so many times. He got beat up by Vitaly Klitschko, by Bermane Stiverne, by Deontay Wilder. But in his last fight against Adam Konagi, he did throw a lot of punches against Adam Konaki, and he even managed to stun Adam Konaki quite a bit. And I remember making a post-fight video, and I reported that he was constantly hitting Adam Konaki with right hands. So, it's not the Luis Ortiz fight, but I think this is a good style matchup for him because it will demonstrate his counter punching abilities against Chris Arreola.